I got an email from the
The whole board received an email
it
from the
was
Lincoln
last-
Senior Center.
sometime last week, but I don't remember what day it was.
But if I can't, I don't have it saved on my desktop, so if I can't get on the internet, I can't read it.
I didn't print it off.
I have a couple corrections to the minutes. I'll read them. Call to order and visitors, it lists, and then we recessed from the basement to go to the courtroom. I approve to move the minutes, seconded by Aljo Wallace, the motion carried. Eric Johnson presented a change order request adding $4,076.15, which would replace a single-phase panel laundry room with a 100 amp 3-phase panel and install stainless steel panel behind existing laundry sink. Aljo Wallace moved to approve the change. Seconded by Terry Finch. Motion carried. Votes Finch aye, Wallace aye, Flug nay. Jim Gabelmann requested a decision on the request presented at the April 23rd, 2018 regular meeting. The board provided their opinion, with the consensus being that the board would not consider at this time the $2 million for the greenhouses, but would consider the $450,000. Gabelmann will meet with the board, of the newly formed nonprofit. As the proposal was presented, as the nonprofit must receive the entire proposal and will return at a later date. I move to correct the minutes, striking the word and add the word to the nursing home section. Seconded by Aljo Wallace, motion carried. The board later approved striking additional language from the nursing home section. David Gersman presented information in regards to KSA 19211, sale or disposition of the county, KSA 19101A, home rule powers, and presented a motion that he would like the board to approve regarding his concern over KSA 754304 and whether a conflict of interest exists involving County Attorney Jennifer O'Hare and O'Hare Law LLC. Director of Public Works Michael O'Hare with Road and Bridge Supervisor Robert Howe discussed the following topics: high-risk rural road signage project, answered questions regarding personnel, and inquired about a decision on the bids received for 2 motor graders and a backhoe. Aljo Wallace moved to purchase 2 Caterpillars from Foley Equipment in the amount of $507,600 and the John Deere backhoe from Murphy Tractor and Equipment in the amount of $109,500. Seconded by Terry Finch. Motion carried. Finch aye, Wallace aye, Flug nay. Recess to the basement meeting room. I related concerns regarding the nursing home presentation. I moved to solicit a feasibility assessment case study through a professional firm to analyze Lincoln Park Manor. Seconded by Terry Finch. Motion carried. The board authorized me to contact John Grace. I moved to have the first Monday of the month meetings be held at an evening time to allow for public participation. Motion died for lack of second. I moved to refer Mr. Gersman's synopsis, background, recitations, and included evidence to the State Attorney General regarding the alleged conflict, no bid, orally made contract of County Attorney Jennifer O'Hare under KSA 754304. Motion died for lack of second. North Central Regional Planning Commission presented the 2019 budget request in the amount of $3,500, same as the last year. I moved to separate the payment for contract for O'Hare Law LLC from accounts payable. Motion died for lack of second. I moved to change the word facility to feasibility in my prior motion. Seconded by Terry Finch. Motion carried. Aljo Wallace moved to approve April gross payroll, $197,387.04. Finch aye, Wallace aye, Flug nay. Terry Finch moved to approve April accounts payable warrants in the amount of $399,019.16. Motion carried. Finch aye, Wallace aye, Flug nay. Aljo Wallace moved to contract the ambulance billing with DeLisa's medical billing service Motion carried. Board approved the ad presented for Live Lincoln County publication and adjourn meeting at 1:12 p.m. Under nursing home proposal, if you want to say that it's a newly formed nonprofit, you'd have to say formed past tense with a ED, although it doesn't have nonprofit status yet. But maybe it'd be more proper to say forming, newly forming, because according to the presentation, they haven't. I
guess they formed, they don't have their their 501c3 yet, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. The board has formed itself, but they're not really a
formed organization.
Sure. Sure, yeah. And I would prefer that it says, Aljo and Terry provided their opinion that they would not consider the $2 million for the greenhouses, but would consider the $450,000, because I didn't say that. What I said that I would like added is that I requested an audit, and I requested,
I don't think, we didn't say we were going to give them $450,000, we said we would consider it.
that's fine, but I didn't say I would consider it at all. I didn't even address what you both addressed the same thing, and you said you were not interested in the $2 million proposition at this time. You were interested in maybe negotiating something with the $450,000. I did not address that at all. I did not address the $2,450,000. What I addressed was my concern with the monetary proposal, and I suggested that we do an audit. And I also questioned the home health care spinoff. I mean, those are things that, if we're going to let the public know what the concerns are, that needs to be included. So I think what you said is that you agreed with what Aljo said about the $2 million and the $450,000, maybe finding some sort of compromise there. But that wasn't my concern at all. My concern was trying to get an audit and wondering what has happened to the money produced by home health care.
Which I have that with the feasibility study and the list down below. Right?
No, it just says that related concerns regarding the nursing home, and I moved to solicit the feasibility assessment, and the board authorized me to make contact.
Did you get something?
What I got was, I struck the word "the board" and put Commissioner Finch and Wallace. And then I added the word ED, struck nonprofit, organization, added the word organization.
If you want to, well, it was in that courtroom meeting where I said that I suggested an audit.
I really didn't want to go into what everybody, because I'm not documenting what everybody specifically said. I just felt like the board had made a consensus that the $2 million was off the table. So that's why I added that part. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have even added that part. But I guess I thought that's why they were asking their board to go back and talk, because it was all or nothing. But I can add whatever. I just was trying not to add what
I don't have a problem
every
with
person said.
adding that Alexis requested an audit.
Where would you like it added at?
Under the proposal, because I spoke to
Yeah.
Jim Gabelmann about it, and he revealed that there is a non-disclosure agreement in place, which is
Okay,
also a
so
concern.
after meeting, what am I putting? You tell me what you want.
Just put that Aljo, or, Commissioner Finch and Commissioner Wallace gave their opinion, and then I gave my suggestion of an audit.
Okay.
and questioned the sale of the home health portion of the business. I think that's a huge factor that we're not thoroughly investigating.
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually a sale though.
It was.
They-
I talked to John Grace. They did sell. He sold it to
Himself.
another, yeah.
It's himself. He owns,
His son.
He
It's
owns
his son's
Sun
company,
Porch.
Yeah.
well, his son owns it or he owns it, his son works for,
I thought it was his son owns it, but he's an investor. So therefore,
so he owns shares in the corporation that he sold from one that he owns to another that he's a partial
yes.
owner, however that works. I would like to point out that that is nothing more than a client list. When you sell a home health organization,
There's nothing stopping them from starting their own if they don't sign a non-compete list agreement.
which may be in that non-disclosure agreement that we are unaware of the details, so that is a concern.
Well, before anything's done, we're going to be aware of the details.
I agree. Thank you for saying that. Anyhow, I think that, and then the only other changes I have under highway department, let's see. I had questioned the write-up of an employee and discouraged our public works director from attending lunches during bidding processes with one of the two bidders.
I think that, it's difficult to include everything that everybody says in minutes.
I know, but those are important things that we would need in the future if you needed to reference a date or a scenario. If you want to add that, I won't ask you to add that I questioned whether we can fix the old backhoe or not instead of buying brand new.
I guess you could put that Alexis inquired. I'm not sure how to,
I put that they answered questions regarding personnel, is what I have.
Disciplinary actions. I'm assuming that a write-up on an employee is a disciplinary action. And I think I questioned if we were, which goes along those same lines, I questioned if we were still paying the same pay rate for an employee who has been demoted from his position. Demoted in the meaning of moved to another position that doesn't make as much money, which I would consider a demotion. There's no real hierarchical chain of command, but it's one makes more money, one makes less money. When you move from making more money to less money, it's a demotion.
but again, I think that there's no way that we can put everything that everyone says in the minutes.
I understand that, but if we were to come under lawsuit for having changed someone's position or pay rate or questionably firing someone, this is an important date to have in the minutes that we were discussing it, which we'll be discussing it again today.
I guess that, you know, you effectively discussed personnel issues, didn't you?
I had personnel and I ended it. I've now added disciplinary action.
I would appreciate that qualification.
Or I can put and. I still think it covers.
I would say. Any other corrections?
Nope, I move to approve the April 30th, 2018 minutes as corrected.
I'll second. Is there any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye. It's my time on the agenda, but without all the commissioners here, it's kind of pointless for me to give my entire presentation. I have a write-up, just 2 pages that I wanted to read through, simply explaining what I learned because I had a meeting with the executive director of the North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging. It's quite a mouthful. And in that interaction, I had some confirmations of things that had already been assumed about Lincoln County's role and activity with that group, and then some additional information that I was unaware of that is very interesting. But like I said, I think until we can have the entire board here, it's pointless. I'll just be repeating myself the next time. However, I will read a letter that was given to me to read here. This woman is 90 years old, and she has attended the senior center for a long time. She served on the Council on Aging in the past. She's been a volunteer for many different things, especially with the elderly community. And the reason why I'm reading this without Aljo Wallace here is because it's my understanding that he had already had a meeting with this person and some others, and so either this was presented to him or he's well aware of this person's position. But she just asked that I share this. And again, I'm doing this because I'm a representative from this district. This organization, the Sylvan Senior Center, is in my district, and I feel that I've been I've done my due diligence in research to know what has been going on for the last several years. So she writes, "We, the Sylvan Senior Center, are all in agreement that we will accept our own responsibility to keep the door open. At the center, if the county commissioners do not take over the distribution of funds, how long can we operate this way? It's hard to say. It will require more volunteer hours from each of us. We all want this to be resolved, and I will repeat, only you, our elected officials, can do it. Let's be proud of our Lincoln County, and with you, keep the county run and money dispersed in the right and correct way. A Lincoln County citizen who appreciates the county for growth instead of diminishing the population is requesting. First, I'm not sure how long I will be able to participate at the Sylvan Senior Center if the division of funds is not changed. I know that you are aware that my health is the most important thing to be able to be the required caregiver that I am to my husband. Every day that goes by is so shocking to think that the tax money I pay for elderly services in our county is not spent for the programs it was voted to do. It is far past due, and this needs to be changed immediately. And only you commissioners can do this. Please help us at the Sylvan Grove Senior Center to build our center, for it is all we have for activities and social interaction, which I know is very important for seniors to do. As far as our private funds, we have worked hard over the years with plans to enlarge and have more activities. This will mean that we will need a fair percentage of the mill levy money to maintain this endeavor. If we have to supplement funds from the private account, as we are doing now, I personally will do no more volunteer time if it cannot be set aside for enlargement. After 10 years plus of controversy, I see no workable solution to continue as it has been done in the past. Terry, I'm just wondering, I think the part of the conversation we can have without our third commissioner is, have you been at the recent meetings of the LCCA? What is your take on that situation, and what is their current, in what direction are they currently moving?
I was unable to attend the last meeting. I was tied up at work and couldn't get there. So I'm not exactly sure, I don't know exactly what they discussed. I haven't talked to any of them.
Were you there at the meeting when they decided to relocate their office and rent an exterior building outside of?
I was there when they made the decision to go look at the building to see if it was adequate.
What would be the purpose of them branching off to have their own facility and increase their own expenses, which already absorb more than 50% of that
I
tax?
don't know how much it was increasing their expenses. They were paying rent and utilities and stuff where they were at, so
They were paying separate utilities?
they were paying money towards the utilities.
In their rent payment?
Huh?
So what would be the difference there?
I don't know. That's what I said. I don't know whether it was an increase, a decrease, stayed the same. I don't know if they had any numbers on what the utilities had been running. I know that their office they were in wasn't handicap accessible unless they went through the senior center because there's steps there.
Nancy, you're still a member of the Council on Aging, correct?
I'm afraid so.
And do you have any input on what this plan is to break
Well,
away
it's
from?
pretty much done without most of us knowing.
It wasn't a
I mean,
board
they brought it
decision?
up and they discussed it, but they did not say during the meeting how much the rent was going to be or any. And so they asked me if I would be willing to go and view the building. And I said yes, but I never was called. And at the next meeting, which was the last meeting, they just, Liz Winkler made a motion to move over there. And we still didn't have any details. But most of them said yes. And so they
Was
moved.
there a reason given?
More privacy was the reason they gave, more privacy. So, but the thing that really kind of bothers me is each month Teresa gives us a list of the things she's done, and she had already packed and been over there and done things before we ever approved it. And also Liz had done a budget, which we hadn't even talked about budgets yet. She did a budget and she had included what the new facility, what the rent would be. And the rent was more than what we were paying the Lincoln Senior Center. But they said that what we were paying the Lincoln Senior Center had been lessened because we were now paying the telephone. And so Liz, last February, or January, February, she changed the telephone system so that the Lincoln Senior Center's phone and the LCCA phone was under one plan to save money. And so that's why they lowered the rent to $155. But they didn't really come up and say how much the rent was going to be on the new building. Did you
They
hear?
said $200.
Okay. Okay.
Plus utilities.
I don't have my notes, and so I don't remember everything, but I just remembered that.
Were you at the meeting, Dawn?
they had already.
So was there a reason given, or did they discuss the actual?
Confidentiality is what we kept saying.
Privacy.
So when clients come in, if people see them come in, they're asking them, what were you there for, what were you doing? And people would come over and talk. to
Judy's
them.
on the board too.
It was the executive committee who made the decision.
So the board didn't get to vote on it,
We voted, but they had already made the decision.
and she had already, the employee had already
They had
moved
already
things,
started, yeah,
created
had
a
already
budget
packed
based on.
things according to her list that she gave us.
She reported that she had done these
Yeah.
things before
Yeah.
the board even made that decision. We have a theme here
Yes.
for years
Yes.
of that activity.
They have a Facebook post that says, "We've relocated the Lincoln County Council on Aging office to 206 East Fourth Street in Lincoln. We're north of the library and the gold metal building. The building is more easily handicap accessible and will provide more confidentiality to the customers than the other location. Come on in to see our new digs. May 4th, 3:12 p.m.
I find it interesting that with all the controversy going on now, it seems like an insufficient location when it's served its purpose for more than a decade. With no complaints about that. I mean, we've received plenty of complaints about the Council on Aging, but not one single complaint about confidentiality from participants who attend there for various reasons.
Or handicap accessibility.
I've never heard a complaint about that either.
Don't they have a door between? I mean, when I was on the
Yes.
Council on Aging, they had a door between that they shut whenever they had a meeting.
Yes.
So,
But in the afternoon, you cannot use that door.
Meaning,
If you need a ramp to get in, the facility is closed. The center,
the senior center.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So all you can do is go up the steps in the Council on Aging office.
Mm-hmm.
Just out of
So they
curi-
couldn't build a ramp or anything for that?
Out of curiosity, the building they moved to, isn't that would be my mom's old office, wouldn't it?
Who?
My mom's old disability office. Isn't there a step going in there?
No,
Well, I happen to know the bathroom's this big.
Yeah, it's alright.
There's
the
no,
bathroom at the Lincoln Senior Center is not accessible either.
I've been in that bathroom.
It's not accessible by code. It is not accessible by ADA certification.
So then it sounds like we could have invested in doing that for both.
when we
Right,
had
program.
Is
to-
the
we
bathroom
had
at the Sylvan Senior Center accessible by code, but we can go there. And the ramps have to be by code, and it was brought up to them when they installed some walls at the Lincoln Senior Center that it needed to be by code, as the door needed to be by code, but they did not follow it. And there has already been, now that the Lincoln Senior Center has both parts, they're asking to have a ramp put in so that they can have more people attend in that side of the building.
Which would have been a very simple solution to part of the problem.
However, the beams under the basement will not allow the ramp to be put in that side of the thing, because it was looked at by people that know those kinds of things. The ramp could go from the south to the north, but it would take up a lot of the space of that extra room.
So to continue on, I guess, with the rest of what I can discuss, because Aljo Wallace received the same email that we both did. We just received an official, if you will, complaint from the Lincoln Senior Center about the Council on Aging. So now, not only do we have the Sylvan Senior, who has lodged official complaints to us repeatedly over several years, we have multiple resignations from the board due to complaints about this organization, and now we have both senior centers in the county, the only two, describing similar issues that they've experienced with what I would call a blockade being created that hinders the use of the tax money that we are taxing an additional 2 mills for. Well, and it was less the last year, 2 years, I think. But the point is, Terry, and I wanted to say to Aljo too, that this is our responsibility. It's not, this isn't up to these organizations to work it out, or however this has been put in the past. we can see that it has progressed to be an increasing problem over the years. And it's the commission's responsibility. And the only real recourse we have is to make financial decisions. The money that has already been given to the Council on Aging, that they have in their bank accounts, that belongs to them. We can't take that back. The only thing we can do is make decisions from here on out on how we fund things, to look at the proper budgets, to call the shots as far as where the dollars go and how those are spent. And as far as I'm concerned, the Council on Aging has enough revenue to support itself for several years into the future without our help.
I would say there's a strong possibility, depending on what happens at the nursing home, that that may require some funds.
From the senior mill levy,
Yes.
I could agree with that. I mean, we are taxing for senior services.
I think you have to look at where the money is needed the most.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll give my entire dialogue next time when Aljo can be with us, but basically what I found out from the North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging, there are so many services that are provided through this organization, and they are not needed to be duplicated in the local office. We, each one of us, and I'm not a senior I guess, but I should say each one of our seniors here has complete and total access to the North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging, and they provide so many things. I mean, anything that you think that you're finding locally, it's because it's supported through these regional groups, these Area Agency on Aging. And the state and the federal government already funds this through the through the Older Americans Act and the Senior Care Act. So we're already paying for this. We're paying for this out of our sales tax. We're paying for this out of our income tax. It's one phone call to the office in Salina. That's our local office is the Salina office. You don't have to travel there. You can make a phone call there. They will help find resources for you. And in fact, on their website, if you go there, it lists each county and then what resources you can utilize through each county and the different organizations that will come and service you where you are. The services that are being provided are through a variety of resources. These services are not being provided through the Council on Aging. So the connection there has been very skewed for a long time. The Council on Aging is not an extended branch of the Area Agency on Aging. In fact, the real relationship between the regional area agencies on aging and the counties, it's to promote volunteerism, strictly. The Area Agency on Aging reaches out to each county if they have a Council on Aging, especially through that group, because we're targeting a specific venue of, seniors. And the idea there is they utilize the Council on Aging to find volunteers who will do things like get people connected to the right service. And those services we're already funding. And the one thing that I think needs brought up for us is, why are we using, if I'm understanding it correctly, the way we did it last year, my first year, when we did the budget, there's a fee that the North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging requests from us, like other groups, right? And we're paying half of that out of the general fund?
There's two different things that they're doing. Are there two different things?
Two fees to the Area Agency on Aging?
Yes, one is for their administrative costs, and the Council on Aging is picking that up completely. It used to be that they paid $200 and the county paid the rest of it.
Okay.
And when they started getting their mill levy, they started paying it all.
Okay.
And then there is the Senior Care Act money, which we never ever gave them an increase because LaDonna had said she wasn't seeing any increase in people being allowed to participate in that program.
They weren't funding anyone.
So the commissioners decided that they had started funding it, and then they would give them no more funding than that dollar amount, which I think is $1,404. But I think this past year they asked for less, so it may be like $1,200 and some dollars. But there just isn't any of our citizens aren't getting added to that program.
By choice or by, what does that mean?
They would have funding to do it.
We're contributing
The
so
last
little
time-
that they won't service us, or what does that mean?
She
Well-
used to come and see us every year.
Ladonna used to have, like, the people that they visited had, some of them qualified for different kinds of grant funding. So she had some people that were getting funding through North Central Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging. And supposedly when they started the Senior Care Act, they would allow additional people on. But we were never, or Ladonna never had any clients that qualified for additional funding. You'd have to ask Ladonna more about that because I don't really understand, but I just know that it was her recommendation that we not give them any more money than what they were receiving if they weren't gonna.
They weren't allowing anyone new to come on the program.
Well, you ask her to come and, or at least
Talk
email
about
us, yeah, if she can't show up, to at least send us information on that, because I'm out of the loop on that, and that was not discussed in my meeting with the Flint Hills Area Agency on Aging. And I don't think that we should be spending the money if we're not receiving any of the benefits that come with that package. I mean, that seems like
Well, I
we're
don't think-
donating to something that,
I don't know if that is the only thing that's funded through,
Yeah, I'm not 100%
yes,
sure.
I don't
what
think that's
Senior
the
Care
only
Act is.
thing that's funded through it. She used to come here every year and present stuff to us, and I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years ago, she presented something that wasn't correct, and we called her on it, and she hasn't been back.
really, and it's still the same person there now, though.
Julie Colbert Walters.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Terry, that we need to make sure, since this is a senior meal levy, that the money gets to the seniors. And I guess what I don't understand is why then we're tying it up with an organization that won't distribute it, we're bankrolling it instead of distributing it, and we're hiring a coordinator who's paid so much more than anyone in bigger counties around here. To me, that's not getting the money to the seniors. And I feel like it would be possible, I know it's possible because surrounding counties do it, for that mill levy to go directly to the senior centers and directly to these organizations that would actually benefit from it. So I don't understand why we bureaucratically tie it up so that the seniors can't have it. Do you have an answer for
Well,
that?
I've stated before, I don't have a problem giving operating money directly to the senior centers, but only an audit.
Great. Oh my gosh.
I've said
Answer
that
prayer,
before.
problem finished.
I've said that
Are they
before.
continuing with the audit at the Council on Aging? You would probably,
Yeah.
with members
As
would,
far as I know, they are, yeah. Sylvan Senior Center is the only one
are
that
you
hasn't.
continuing with the audit at the,
It's at the auditor.
your financials are at the auditor?
Yes.
So has,
That's the last we heard.
what's the name of that?
I'm sorry.
It's
I
a
don't
company
know.
in Hayes. I don't know, don't have my.
Would you mind getting that information for me at some point?
Brown's Barron and Ball. Brown's Barron and Ball.
Brown,
that sounds
Barron.
right.
Brown Barron and Ball, it's a big accounting firm in Hayes.
So have they been asked to collect the information from the Sylvan Senior Center?
Sylvan will not, I was stopped on Main Street in Sylvan the other day, and they says have everything laid out and the auditor can come. They will not send anything to an auditor.
They won't send it to the auditor? We were told that they won't send it to the Council on Aging. We weren't.
No, Justine Dole stopped me and says, we will not send it. It is laid out and the auditor can come here.
Is Justine even an officer?
Yes, she's the secretary.
She's the secretary.
What we had said was that we wanted it audited on site because number one, that's usually how an audit is done. And number two, our financial treasurer had died. So there's lots of receipts and things that we tried to organize, but we felt the auditor could get through it better if they were on site. And number three, what we were asked for was to submit a whole bunch of stuff to the Lincoln County Council on Aging. And we didn't do it because we knew it would be a huge hassle, as it turned out to be for the Lincoln Senior Center. They were told to jump through all these hoops and make sure this was done and that was done, and we didn't want to go there. So that's why we asked for an audit on site, those reasons. And I'm sure we're still thrilled to do it. I mean,
So has
Some of
Brown's,
those
Barron,
groups
and
which I
Ball
asked
been
for the
requested
receipts.
I know
come
about
to the
those
Sylvan
things.
Senior Center?
Or that I don't know.
Okay,
All I know was that all the papers are there. This was at our last meeting,
okay.
that they were there and conducting whatever.
Okay. So why doesn't Sylvan just pay for their own audit? You guys don't even have, I mean, usually audits are done by the quantity of, or the volume of financials that,
Probably because we haven't received mill levy money in ages, and we don't have a lot of money to pay for an audit. Especially we have no idea what it's gonna cost. I mean, the LCCA asked for the audit, so we assumed they would pay for it.
well, I know you can't make
They
a
were
decision.
going to pay for it.
Right,
Okay,
so
the
they should.
council said they will pay for the audit, but Sylvan wants the auditor to come. So for that mileage, Sylvan can pay their own.
Well, that
I
sounds
agree.
great. They already
I
said
agree.
they'd do that.
But, here
Well,
again,
no, Mike, last time Mike was in here, he said he would talk to the board, and I haven't heard back from Mike, so.
No, I think we talked about, we would pay mileage, that's no big deal.
I think then someone from the Sylvan Senior Center needs to contact this Browns, Barron, and Ball.
And I think it's Brown, Barron,
Oh,
and Ball.
sorry,
And
Brown.
Barron is Beran, I believe.
Thank you. Brown, Barron, and Ball, and tell them that you wish to participate in the audit,
And we'll pay
and whatever
mileage.
the additional charges are, please bill it directly, and that would solve a lot of issues.
Yep.
How many year audit is it?
3, I believe.
So that's a total of
For us, it's like.
$10,000, not even $10,000 for you.
$2,000.
3 a year, maybe 9,000 something. Because Terry, you do understand that the money that you're saying was given to the Sylvan Senior Center in the form of material goods, that's under the audit for the LCCA, that's not part of the audit
Yeah.
fees. Okay.
Right, it's just.
The only thing that's on theirs is the actual money. It would be-
Can I
Right.
make a suggestion? I don't know if LaDonna will be able to come next week or not, but I'll ask her. But while she's here, would you ask her what her suggestion is on how to divide up the money and how to properly distribute it? Because her and I were talking about it, and she was talking about what if you guys distributed based upon some of the grant funds that she gets and how it's distributed, and it kind of made sense. But I would rather her kind of
Yeah,
explain.
to give us an idea, I think we should consider all the options. Another thing that I think is an easy solution, just as other counties do, you have multiple entities eligible for this money. The mill levy money is set up for service programs for the elderly, that's verbatim, service programs for the elderly. At any point, someone providing a program for the seniors, as you said, the nursing home, whatever it may be in the future, is providing a service. They're providing activities, they're providing different things that they do provide activities.
Activities are not programs, there's a distinction.
There should
This is our Lincoln County Charter Resolution, and a program, that word is to be determined by the board. There's no, you can't tell us what a program is.
For the grants that she gets, those are for programs for the elderly, and like they just had one for chronic management for elderly health. That qualifies for the senior, maybe should be getting mill levy money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Any group that's providing a program, according to our definition of a program, is eligible for the money.
But when
So
you
we could
apply
have
for a
10
grant,
applicants.
You have to use the definition of what the grant
This isn't a
is.
grant.
I
This is
know,
a mill
but when you
levy.
apply for
And
money
so
for
when
grant,
we could potentially have 10 applicants that want a portion, and I think it's up to us, just as we do for all of the other solicitors for our tax money, you determine, according to their budget, how much of it you're gonna fund. We don't have to fund 100% of their budget. If the senior centers come in here and we approve 75% of their budgets, they'll have to manage with the other 25%. If we determine that a portion of the mill levy money is eligible to go to the nursing home for whatever reason, if it's to help provide home health care service that's local out of the nursing home with real nurses and provisions that are now being taken away from us, then we can make that decision. I think the commission has just negated our responsibility to this money for so long, and we've expected other people to work it out, and it has been a debacle. on many levels. And
And I would like to see you at least discuss the possibility of restructuring it so that more money is available to the seniors instead of tied up in bureaucracy and salaries. The money just isn't getting through to where it needs to be.
right, the money says it's going to be used for programs for the elderly, but we're using it to pay a pension, to pay a health
Exactly.
insurance plan, to pay,
Exactly.
those things are not programs for the elderly.
Right, exactly. And the other thing I did want to tell you is, we have a senior center meeting tomorrow at noon. So I'll bring up this auditing thing and make sure we have that all nailed down. Because I know
Do
we
you have
talked
the name of
about.
that firm that you can?
Yes, it is Brown, Barron, and Ball. And I think I even have it spelled right, thank you. And so I'll bring that up and just, because I know we've talked about it, I know we've said it's okay, but I'm not sure we moved on to the meeting, so we'll get that done tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that's who it is, though.
Okay, I'll find out.
That name doesn't ring a bell with me, but
Does it sound right to either of you on the board?
I
Can't remember.
I-
You'll let us
it
know.
sounds-
You
I
have
think
notes.
it is, because I remember it was 3 names, and it was just brought up at the last meeting, and the stuff had already been taken there, even without us knowing the name of it.
So the board
Okay,
never approved that
originally-
either.
We were to go with someone, I think it was
In
Topeka,
Topeka, yes.
and that auditor said that it would be better in Hayes because they do, wherever they went, was more like corporations, big corporations. And we were a small compared to, okay, that's why it went to Hayes, due to the auditor in Topeka, whoever that was,
Yeah.
I'm lousy on
Yeah.
names.
Are you an officer?
Yeah, I represent Lincoln.
No.
But
I
you're
know
not
you're
an
a board
officer.
member.
No,
Are you-
a
we're just
board
a
member,
member.
sorry.
That's okay.
No.
My question to you is, how does it make you feel to know that all of these decisions have been made by a few in the group and they're not brought to the table at the meeting to have open discussion and a vote by all the members?
I don't think there's been that many.
It's just lately, here lately.
How long have you been on the board?
Oh, I took over a year from somebody, I was just reappointed. And then several years ago, I was on for 2 years when we lived north of Denmark. But I moved to Lincoln, so I had to get off. So, been close to 5 years altogether.
But you
there
said
was like a
just-
5
Just recently, there were these decisions that have been made. I'm just going to explain to you that we've had these same complaints about this scenario for several years in a row. That there were all kinds of decisions. I mean, there was a letter sent out not too long ago, maybe a month or 2 ago, a letter that was sent out by the board that was never approved. It wasn't sent out by the board. It was addressed as if it was to be sent out by the board, but it was signed by one person, and it was never even read to you on the board for approval. You know, that is a
I
repeated.
told you, used to be on when I represented north of Denmark.
Mhm.
There was still this financial squabble back then. I mean, not a whole heck of a lot has changed in
Right,
5 years or whatever.
right, and even
Anyway.
longer. Yeah.
At Sylvan Senior Center last year, we even prepared our budget, and then somehow the LCCA took it upon themselves to prepare our budget and brought their budget to the commission instead of ours. Ours never showed up here, which I don't understand how that happens. You would think that our entity would prepare our budget and we would present it without any interference from an outside group.
And I have the complaint from the Lincoln Senior Center that I can't access because I don't have internet right now, but I did not print it out or anything. But basically the complaint is the
Same thing.
same exact
Same thing,
scenario for the Lincoln Senior Center.
Okay, they did not give us in time.
Right.
We kept asking for it. This much I remember. That by such and such a day we need it, and it was not received.
You mean Lincoln's?
No, Silver.
Sylvan's absolutely was, I can guarantee it, because we made a huge point of getting it done early. We gave it to the people we were supposed to give it to, and it was never given to the board.
Mm-hmm.
it went to the coordinator and maybe an officer or two, and it never came to the board.
And
But
I
the
have,
budget was
I have
different.
documentation
So I was on that
of
committee.
several different, pieces of information that were submitted to the employee of the board that never, that information never made it to the board, and that's from several years ago. So this again is another theme, that the board is just not receiving the information that's provided.
I have a question, just as I'm just a citizen here, listening to what's going on, and in my past, as a newspaper publisher, I covered some of these meetings. Are there any members of the executive committee for the Council on Aging in here?
No.
Why is the executive committee making decisions for the Council on Aging as an entity outside of the board? The responsibility of an executive committee is to gather and make recommendations to the board as a whole, and then the board votes on those decisions.
Ideally.
I agree. In fact, that was brought up several years ago at some of the meetings, and when it was brought up as an issue, what the board did, which you two were not on, they went ahead and changed the bylaws
Right.
to allow the executive, and I don't know if that's still in the bylaws, I haven't looked at them in a long time, but they went ahead and changed the bylaws to make sure that according to their own bylaws, it was okay for the executive board to make decisions on behalf of the board without approval of all the members. So
Well, if you're a board member, your question should be, then why do I need to be there?
Yeah.
Because the executive committee is making if they're making a decision to relocate the business or renegotiate rent or to turn off the Lincoln Senior Center's phone service without notifying them,
exactly,
then there's no need for the board to be there.
exactly.
It could be a board of 4 or 3 or 1.
Cindy, yes.
The Lincoln Senior Center has recently redone their bylaws, and they've made their officers serve till death. And there are no meetings that you can go to as a member if you wanted to go to a membership meeting. And the Council on Aging in Manhattan requested, we'd like to know when your site meetings are, because they've not been informed when they are either. They've also have a part in their new bylaws that say that they're going to require dues of seniors. I'm against that, just saying as a senior.
Good, we need to move on. Bob?
Thank you for the discussion from the audience, that really helps give us some input, and I think that's the most important key. Have they approved those bylaws? They've approved those bylaws?
And they were written by an attorney here.
Can we request that, just to take a look at it,
What's that?
the
I
new
have a
bylaws?
copy of it if you want to see a
Sure.
copy later.
Dawn, would you request the new bylaws from the Lincoln Senior Center?
Are you Mr.
If someone can email them, or at least give you a copy, the newest ones. I would like to see if that's correct.
Morning, Bob.
Good morning. I guess there's a couple requests for increase in wages.
No. Here it is here.
Six months. So.
Yeah.
Have either of these employees received disciplinary action?
What's that?
Have either of these employees that you've submitted for wage increases received disciplinary action in their 6 months?
No.
I would so move to grant 6-month increase after the recommendation of the
summary of what I need.
Be for Emmett Hogg and Gary Winefull. I have a motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And we were talking with Dwight Watson. He said he would be willing to do part-time spraying for us. Either do it in the early morning, evening, whatever would work, or maybe even on the weekends or whatever would work.
As the contracted help,
Yeah,
or does he have to become an employee? He has
part-time.
to become an employee. Does he have his own license?
He'd been doing it when he worked for us.
He did it for 2 years, spraying for us for 2 years while he was working here.
I'm still confused about the licensing though, because I have been told that you have to hold a license to spray. And I think, Terry, you're the one that told me, well, Dan Hanna has the license for the county, but my understanding of the legality is they have to be under direct supervision of the license if they're going to be spraying for the licensed person, and Dan Hanna doesn't have any employees, so I'm very concerned about this setup.
Well, they were always working under his direction. They're using the county's weed department's spray truck, working under his directions, under his license.
But the way I understand it, if you're working for someone who has a license, you have to be under them, and we don't have any employees under Dan. You're talking about the highway department, which is a completely separate department.
But he's a supervisor.
Yeah,
I've
if
never seen that he's a
come back,
supervisor or
like I say,
anything.
we talked earlier about part-time spray mowing. He would be part-time under him.
I wouldn't be so concerned about this if we didn't have a lawsuit pending and several other lawsuits in the make over our use of chemicals in this county. So I'm a little concerned about not having our ducks in a row. Could we maybe ask an attorney or have some official input, because we're digging ourselves a hole here.
I guess that's,
We can find out.
see
We'll
where we're
contact the
at. Like I
state,
say,
state
it's
will.
just
But I don't
question,
think,
we was looking for their part-time and he volunteered.
I don't think,
He'd be
that-
glad to do it.
I don't think the chemicals they were spraying or,
Don't fall under,
I don't think so.
I would have more concern though, of him working after hours and on the weekends, because none of our county employees are allowed to do that.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Just because of an internal policy
would
or
have to
because of
be
an
during the
insurance
work
coverage?
hours.
yeah,
Internal policy.
that, even when he was working here before, he usually went out there early in the morning before the wind come up and stuff like that, and
Deborah, are we not allowed to
Straight, so-
contract something?
We are hiring, we are looking to hire
They
a
would have-
part-time employee to help with the spraying. And Dwight has said he'd be willing to be that part-time employee. He just asked if we would be willing to modify the hours in which he would be asked to work.
And
He
you
can't work
To-
6 to 4 Monday
I
through
understand that,
Thursday.
but
And you
I-
can't contract with somebody when you're supplying all of the equipment, the IRS
Yeah,
or
they'd
the
have to
Fair
furnish
Labor
all their own
Standards
stuff.
rules that as a
And he would
non-contract.
be a part-time employee under Dan's license, helping Dan with the spraying. And he just said he was available to help part-time, just with some non-typical hours. We just didn't know how the board felt about allowing that to occur, where he might spray on days that they're not working, because they only work right now Monday through Thursday.
I think it's gotta be through normal working hours.
And that was the question.
So then,
And
but,
if we're not okay with that, then we'll continue to look for somebody else part-time to help with the spraying.
but if we're talking about hiring part-time help, I thought we wanted the part-time help for the highway department.
It's public works, and they're all under Dan, Perry, the
It says-
landfill, the weeds department, all of them are under public
They
works.
said spraying and mowing, is what they said.
Mowing, I remember we talked
Yes.
about.
And he said that he because he worked for us in the past, he'd be willing to come back to work for us part-time, because he's the one who helped Dan with the spraying the last 2 years, under Dan's license. And he would continue under Dan's license.
Did we have an attorney look at that when you guys made that decision?
Made what decision?
To allow someone to spray who,
We've always had part-time help for Dan. Up until like the last couple of years, he's always hired somebody part-time to help. The highway department just took on that task of helping him instead of hiring outside. And they came to you guys and asked, and you approved us hiring someone to help part-time with the mowing and the spraying. If we don't want to, that's fine, I'll stop looking for someone to help.
no, I'm not
I don't
opposed
think
to
it's an
having
issue.
help
I
from the
think-
highway department.
But
Right.
I didn't know if the board would be comfortable with the fact that there might be Fridays or Saturdays that he would want to spray if the highway department wasn't working.
I'm of the opinion it has to be through work hours.
And if that's what you want, then that's okay.
Yeah. No one in the office if you have a problem or, you know.
Yeah, that's only concern.
Well, I'm saying if we want someone specifically to just do mowing and spraying, we could contract that. I mean, there are other people with their own equipment who may want that job who could then manipulate according to the weather, and it may even save us money if we did it on a contractual basis.
I doubt it, but we could try, I guess.
If that's the only tasks that are being,
They asked if we
Hired
could
for-
hire part-time help, and you guys said yes, so we ran an ad. If you don't want us to, I'll pull the ad, and we will no longer seek for part-time help to help with mow and spray. It's whatever you guys decide is.
No, I think you wanna try to find someone.
Let him know then, unless he just wants to work the days we work, well,
Yeah, I think.
that would be the only opportunity maybe for him then.
Yeah, during normal working hours, probably.
Bob, I had something that I wanted to discuss. So I moved to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing employee confidential and personal information with the request to inspect the 2017 and 2018 employee disciplinary write-ups or actions. I'll send that to you, and I can't.
Thank you. Well,
I
I can snap a picture, because
Yeah.
my computer just locked up.
I think that covers all of the requirements for our executive session requirements.
Is it okay if I just snap a picture? Make sure it came up. No, it's okay.
I'll second.
How long is this?
How many do we have? How many do we have, Deborah?
Well, can share those in executive session.
Just the number of them. 6, 8, 10?
One.
1? 5 minutes with the board only.
Board only?
Yes.
You want me to?
Three
I think the
commissioners.
human resource officer needs to be present, so.
We can have we could go in again if you want to ask questions. I would just like to inspect it. If there's only been one in the last year and a half, just want to see what it is.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did you say aye?
No, I'll say nay.
Are we back?
Yes, we're back.
Deborah, was that the only one for the whole county?
Can we come in?
Yeah.
Yeah. trouble, I'm in trouble. You're always in trouble.
From 2017 and 18.
That is the ones that is the only one that is within a department under your control.
Lefty's had a big party.
Yeah, we were supposed to go to
So
that.
how many are there total?
Elected officials are outside of
All
your
in the
control.
county, in the whole county.
Come here, come here.
Elected officials are outside of your control, so there's nothing for me to provide from them. They would have to
Okay.
Come here.
hold that themselves.
No, we're allowed to request that, so I just wanna know how many there are total. We have total jurisdiction to request that.
Elected officials have sole discretion over their personnel, hiring, firing, promoting, demoting.
We as a board can vote to see those at any time, so I'm
Not
wondering.
elected officials, not unless they choose.
No, that's not true.
Ray Nylander versus Jack Jackson, Ray Nylander versus Lincoln County, that case, the court found that elected officials have sole discretion over the hiring, firing, promoting, demoting of their employees, as long as they
It's not a
follow.
hiring, firing issue, it's
It's
access
a
to records.
personnel issue.
It's access to
You'll have to
records.
ask them, the elected official, to provide them themselves, because they don't have to.
So, but they're turning them into you?
Most of them do, if they have something, they
Well,
keep
maybe
it in
that needs to
I
be
better,
remedied.
better scoot over here, make a little.
I think it's gonna get a little full hard.
Yeah, that's fine. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Gals?
Hi.
Hey, I'm gonna do my best this year to get back into a quarterly routine. Kind of dipped out of that last year, but I'd like to get back to it. So what you have before you is a list of activities that I've done in the county as part of enforcement on the Lincoln County Sanitary Code. Sorry, and it's broke down for months and then per activity. So January did 2 water consults. Most of the water consults end up being water well sightings, which will end up being well permits. And then we had 1 meeting for 3 hours, which would have been the Lincoln County LEPP committee, which I sat on. February we had 1 inspection and 1 water test. And then another meeting, which would have been our year-end review of 2017. And then March rolled around and we had inspection, 1 inspection and 3 consults. 1 inspection was we had a new home put in the county. Rhino Miller built a new house. Really nice one too. And then the 3 consults will be cost share letters for failed septic systems, which will be replaced later in the year. So another water well inspection and a water test. And on the back side, no meetings. So we had a total of 31 hours field activities in Lincoln County. Should have that box. Any questions about any of that?
The failed systems are gonna be corrected, you said?
They will.
They will be?
Yep.
Do we still have cost share through the?
Through the NRCS program, yeah. All 3 of them have applied.
Okay.
We submitted cost share letters, or I did, about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. That money, they start taking applications March 15th, and then the money's not available until July 1st. So they will not be fixed until July 1st. But it's a good program.
Does it just replacements?
Well, that'll be no whole new systems, yeah. Yeah, they're existing homes that are in dire needs of replacement. So, 2 of them are straight pipes. So. Any other concerns that you 3 might have in the county?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Is the new company out here, are they doing septic system is pumping and stuff still.
I forgot to go talk to them. They did get licensed. I haven't done their truck inspections yet. I'm curious to see if they're gonna handle the grease as DJ used to handle. We, as I said on the Kansas Environmental Health Association, we went down to Manhattan for our spring conference, and we toured the Cat Cans facility down there, and they've roughly spent about $100,000 on a grease treatment system. And it was very interesting to see. Out here he has a dry belt process where it squeezes the water out of it. Theirs has a they add an immersement chemical that coagulates and dries out the grease and then they extract the water. It's a different process but the same method, and a lot of them asked because that facility has decided that they're not going to take other people's grease. So currently we just have Cat Cans. Some municipalities will take grease, and then Ready Industries in Wichita. So I'll visit with Ready Industries and see if that's something that they're willing to do. They might handle their own, I don't know about outside, whether they'll let other contractors haul into them. So I will check on that.
Do you have any questions of Shawn?
Do you ever do any advertising that you do water tests if they request it and send it in? Or?
Yeah, usually during the, well, we used to have a health fair. We used to do water testing for that. So they would advertise it in the paper, and then we have pamphlets that we make up. And then we distribute those out to kind of like the main cafes or main walk-through businesses of this is a free water sampling. And we do that at the county fair also, and so a lot of the people know to bring in water, and we'll run free tests for nitrates and chlorides at that point. But we don't specifically advertise. The most we can do is what's on our website. We don't have the funding as like a private business to.
Yeah.
And we just have a training dollar figure that we use for budgets and stuff. But that's basically how we do it. There's nothing, we don't put an ad in the paper or anything other than the activity putting it in. I do think that we could do some PSAs, I think, for a government entity through radio. We just haven't done a whole lot of that. I do think it's available if we want.
I'm only saying because a few years ago I had my water tested and I just asked a few people, and then you just go to a company and you pay to mail it in and, get your results back or whatever.
Right.
But I hadn't known at that point.
About us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we probably need to do a better job of that.
Just a question, not a criticism. It'd
Yeah.
be nice to know.
Who does the
especially when it's-
website, the county's website development? You guys
I
seem
think
to have
that's out of the
set-
clerk's office.
Just make sure we have a link to our website.
You don't put things on the website?
I'm sure she does.
I thought she was shaking her head no. He said who takes care of the website? That's out of your office.
I'll just make sure that they have a link to our webpage.
Yeah.
Kind of describes that.
It's possible they may also be referring to the Lincoln County, which that would be the economic development
Yes.
facilitator.
Okay.
Somebody being suggestive.
Is that last call? Is that what they call that?
Yes, yeah. Last round.
Aljo, you got anything?
Fine, thank you.
Terry?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
I think get with them, put a link on there, I think that'd be great.
Okay, I'll make sure to get that done. All right, guys, have a great day, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Shawn. Jim Gabelmann? Oh, there he is. Wow.
What you
That's
think
a
of
nice
communist?
Turn around and let's get the shot of that on camera.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Guess what my subject is?
Ah.
And can you tell me what I want again? Same thing. We had a meeting the other day of the board. This is my third week, and essentially the first week we asked for the $2,450,000. Last week, $450,000, and this week, $450,000 again. We need that to get the thing where we can operate it. But that is a very short-term solution. And there have been a number of things that happened since then, so what I need is a sense of the commissioners on what you want us to do. Are you going to go out for RFPs? You're going to give it to the state? You want us to do it? We need something because we feel you're just putting us off. And I think, according to the information come out over the weekend, it's probably time to do something. So our proposal, of course, stands at $450,000 in the immediate short term, and then after that gets approved and we get some stuff done, then we'll come back and figure out what we really want to do. So what say you?
Were either of you contacted over the weekend?
Contacted by who?
Anyone regarding the Lincoln Park Manor, Lincoln Manor Incorporated? Anyone affiliated with that, with this proposal, with that business?
I was contacted, but I was just told that they had met. And I guess I was under the impression that we were gonna take a little bit of time here.
We just need to know, let me know what you need to do.
Were you contacted?
Yes, I've been contacted by a few people
Anyone directly affiliated with the proposal or the business?
with the business. John Grace has visited with me, or called me and asked me if I had some questions. I've visited with a couple of members of the committee.
Terry, were you contacted by John Grace
Yes.
as well? So all three commissioners have been contacted by John Grace over the weekend? Was it disclosed to both of you that the intent for this money, we're excluding the $2 million from the conversation right now, we're talking about the $450,000 that was requested from the commission. Was it disclosed to you that the majority of this money is being asked for so that the back debt of the current administration and owners can be paid?
When I spoke to him, we didn't discuss any part of the financials.
Aljo?
My discussion, no, did not indicate that. I do have concerns about taking on debt from previous or from previous operations. I think we have to, I'm in favor of providing enough money to get it up and running. But I'm not sure I like the idea of taking dollar for dollar a debt that was incurred by some other operation. I'm not sure how we get through that situation. I think if we could provide money, seed money, to get you up and operating the facility, and have and if it takes some other money to pay these vendors to get them off our back, I think that needs to be in kind of a loan type situation where the county is reimbursed for that. I have a little trouble just taking on debt of somebody else's debt. I guess in saying that too, I certainly do not want that nursing home closed, and I'll do everything I can to keep it open. But I do think that we need to talk about what we need to get up and get you running. And then we also need to have a conversation about the back debt that this county really is not responsible for or did not incur. It was incurred by a business. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know whether that is feasible to negotiate or to talk about, but, you know, if you need $250,000 to get up and operate, take it over, start operating it June 1, and then we take care of the vendors through kind of a loan type deal, you know, I'm going to expect to be paid back.
I have a question about that. Take care of the vendors. I'm assuming you mean the debts that are owed by Lincoln Park Manor.
The vendors, yes, the vendors are going to, they're wanting paid, is the way I understand it.
I understand that, but the vendors are owed by Lincoln Park Manor. If there was a new occupant as a tenant, they would not owe that bill. We are a landlord. We're leasing to a tenant. When we lease to our new tenant, we don't charge the new tenant the past due electric bill from the old tenant. You don't pass on debt from one entity to another. Now, if there's a purchase going on in the private sector, one company may purchase another company's debt. The county is not in the position to purchase debt.
I think that's why he said it was gonna be a loan to the,
No, we've never used the word loan.
No.
Other people have, but we have not.
You have not, I understand that, that's my word, I will
Yeah.
take full responsibility for that, yes. But I guess that's kind of where I'm at, Jim, if you really want to know.
Well, our problem is, if we assume even at $450,000, and that pays all of the debt that is on there now, if we took less than that, $250,000, we'd still owe $250,000, and the nursing home has not been able to pay their debt in years, and there's no reason for me to think, because we're, excuse me, a nonprofit, all of a sudden we can start paying that debt. So if we don't take it free and clear, I think we're wasting our time. And we'll go put that to the board. We've talked about it, but we haven't said that exactly. But I don't see how in the world we can assume a $450,000 debt with no assets and no prospects. I think the nursing home will pay its own way for a nonprofit board, but it won't pay its own way if it's got $500,000 worth of debt in the background.
If your board wants to run the nursing home, why are you not approaching us just as a new tenant? Why are you approaching us to be part of the acquisition of a sale of a business that's in debt? Why aren't you just coming to the table wanting to be the new tenant, finding new administration, and bringing in an operator on your own accord?
We can do that. But the situation you have now is that $450,000 is staring in the face, and according to the information I have, if we don't get something done today, starting tomorrow, there's going to be people without work.
Okay, but do you, Terry and Aljo, do you feel a little bit deceived that we sat in the courtroom with the same folks here and we were told that $450,000 was going to be used as working capital?
No, 175 was.
But then at the public meeting, you told me that the debt had been reduced down to $89,000 out of that $250,000.
That was what I was told on one of these, but that's not correct.
Who told you that?
It was on one of these flyers that we had on our first presentation, but that was an
Who told you
incorrect
that?
number. One of the only people has the numbers for that.
I'm just not sure why it's assumed that the county has to pay the debt of a private corporation. I still not clear on why that's assumed. We're the landlord, and we can rent to whomever we choose. So if you're soliciting to be a tenant, I think we can put them on the list. I just don't see why the county has to assume responsibility for any corporation's debt.
I think that, I don't know what the situation is when we're talking about people losing their jobs, but, I would assume if the state comes in, they're not gonna accept any of the bad debt. Assuming that, I don't know.
I think the state might already be on their way. We received some correspondence here from a Dr. Milton Scholes. If I'm saying that properly, I don't know who that is. But he wrote us a letter, and I think now's an appropriate time. Commissioners, I have enclosed communications from December 28, 2017 to Kristen Robinson, current administrator, former owner, and January 24th to Mr. John Grace, current owner. Time has now lapsed with no resolution and no communication from either. And this is dated 4/24. On 3/2/18, I also filed a formal complaint with the Kansas Department on Aging and Disability Services. I have also filed an allegation with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office of a violation of Kansas Statute 215801B3. To date, I have had no response from them. The reality of this is that this fits the Kansas statute definition of theft. I also filed a formal complaint with the Kansas Attorney General's Office on 3/23/2018 in regards to this institution and these individuals. The original complaint uses the figure of $1,950 based upon my mother's usage of the room that month.
100 and whatever the amount is even one month's worth of operation costs. And I just don't know if anybody's actually being realistic that they won't be back here in another 4 months wanting more money.
That's the point I was trying to make. If they're gonna attempt to pay that debt, you're gonna do twice what you're asking for.
Exactly. We can't do that.
I guess,
May I
Mr.
ask?
Grace, what do you consider your license worth? To buy you out enough to get your license, what's that worth?
I'd be glad to talk to you about that.
I think that's where the discussion needs to go.
And the
Because
Well, that's not
essentially,
gonna be a
Like
private
that?
conversation.
essentially, what's that?
I said that's not going to be a private conversation because this is not an issue that we can take months to decide.
No,
I mean,
but I think that's what it boils down to.
could someone explain, maybe one of you, how the licensing works or who currently holds the license, how many there are, and what the details of that need to be if there was to be another occupant or tenant?
Well, there are three, when you talk about license, the administrator has an adult care home license, okay? And that's something that they get, and they can use that anywhere they go. The second license would be the license to operate an adult care home. And that's with the state of Kansas Department on Aging and Disability Services. The third,
Through an individual.
pardon?
Through an individual.
No, through an organization, an individual organization. Yeah.
Okay, so the adult care home is transferable with an individual. That's the administrator's license.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And the
Business license.
business license.
Yeah, is with Lincoln Park Manor, Inc., and that is for licensure as a skilled nursing facility and an assisted living facility. And then the Home Health Agency has a license with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment.
And it's my understanding that without that Medicare license, you can't bill Medicaid.
Yeah, right.
The license to
have it.
operate.
Yeah, you have to have the license to bill.
No, it's a Medicare license.
Yeah,
So we're talking about a fourth license?
It's
an
certified
ID.
for Medicaid and Medicare
yeah.
through the license.
But if you don't have the
process.
Medicare license, you can't collect for Medicaid.
Right.
From
A certification that is
certification.
attached to which
That's-
license? The license to
that's-
operate or the adult care home license?
Adult care home license.
The assisted living and the nursing facility are all lumped in one license. And that's transferable? If somebody buys?
To a new owner, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was upon an agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Change of
The
ownership.
business actually holds the license.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
Other than the administrator's license.
that's right, yeah.
What is the title of the assisted living and the home health care license?
Lincoln Park Manor, Inc.
What is that called, that license? We have adult care home
Yeah,
license for the
That's it
individual.
right there, adult care home license.
We have the license to operate for the business, but there was a third one.
The adult care home license for assisted living and for skilled.
Is separate
It's-
from the adult
it's-
care home.
No, that's it. It's one and the same.
So there are only two licenses.
He said the home health was the third one.
Oh, I thought you said assisted living and home health were lumped into one.
Assisted living and the nursing facility.
Oh. Okay. So the home health care license at this point is not needed because Lincoln Park Manor is not operating a home health operation currently. It's my understanding.
It is operating presently.
I thought we were told that the home health had been.
There's an agreement that has been reached to remove it, but I talked to the board and I said we would work something out with the home health revenues for Lincoln County. So,
You told us that there are no revenues.
He said there wasn't any profit. He
yeah,
didn't say there wasn't revenue.
So it's going to behoove the board to keep a non-profiting portion of this business? That's a new negotiation? That was a question.
I don't know, guys, how we get past it. I don't. If the debt is coming with the business, you're not gonna be able to do it.
That's correct.
You know, I don't know what, like I said before, if the state comes in, I'd assume the debt just goes away. I don't know. I can't feature them paying it.
The debt is attached to the corporation, just as in any other business transaction. If someone purchases your corporation and purchases your debt as part of the agreement, which I'm assuming happened with the prior sale last year, then that belongs to the person and the entity and the shareholders of that corporation. A third party does not necessarily pay debt for a private corporation in any circumstance, and the only reason why we're being approached is because we have a hefty bank account with savings.
I think that's what we've been saying.
But I'm still confused as to why the new board, if their intention is, and I understand the good intention of trying to manage this situation and take it and put it under control. But why is the intention not to just simply apply as a tenant? Why does it have to be purchase of a previously existing company? I mean, you as a board can solicit for operators who hold their own licensure.
But we're going to eventually have to do something with Lincoln Park Manor. That's gotta be transferred, ownership of Lincoln Park Manor's gotta be transferred to the new board.
No, it does not. That's a separate corporation.
So if I come to you and rent the building and had an admin license, I can start my own nursing home.
Yeah. Correct. You would
How
have
do
to,
how do I convince everybody that works out there now and all the residents to move over to my corporation and leave Mr. Grace's corporation?
that would be a matter for the new operator. And you don't have to even start your own. If your board wants to be supervisory, I mean, I'm assuming this board is not gonna go in there daily and work and have offices and phone lines and paperwork. I mean, that's my assumption of the board's
You have
role.
to have administrators to do that. You have
Right,
to hire-
so you hire, the point is you're hiring a new operator
Yeah.
at some point here. That person comes with a license. Then the paperwork that is created to pay the bills of the residents who live there, the payments go to the new operator. It's their choice. I mean, I'm assuming these residents are not under contract. They're there at will. And it's their choice to pay the people that are taking care of them, just as it would be the new employer's choice to pay the employees.
But if you don't buy John Grace's license, You can't operate without that license that's transferable. That's what Terry's question was. How much is that license worth? You can't just open it with an administrative license. You have to have the second license.
The license to operate comes with a viable owner who already has a license to
But
operate.
they don't have it.
I know they don't have it,
And
but that's why
it takes time.
I think anyone taking that over is gonna have to have a separate license for that facility, aren't they? The license that they use in their home in Kansas City isn't gonna cover that facility.
But their application process to get that license already exists if they have other nursing home facilities. I mean, they already have these structured within their portfolio. Let's say they own multiple or own one other. It's just a matter of applying to the state to get a second or a fifth
How
or
long
whatever
does
that means.
that take? I don't know the answer to that. Does it take
I don't
6
know, but
months?
I don't know that question either. I mean, that's where we have to be contacting the state, I think promptly, because they can provide some sort of interim advisory information for us. And in the meantime, you don't just walk away from an operation like this. We saw what happened to the people in Florida where they neglected they're being charged with murder. You don't get to just walk away and leave this situation to where they can't take care of themselves. It's going to be taken care of by the people who are there now. They're under lease with us for at least a 90-day notice. We have not received that notice.
I have a question for John. So is this true that you're planning on laying people off? Like, is that what's happening?
We're not gonna do anything to put the health and welfare of the residents in jeopardy. So, every organization always looks at staffing, looks at their expenses, looks at things like that. So, we're no different than any business, you know, we have to make ends meet. But I'm gonna reiterate, we're not gonna do anything to put the health and welfare of the residents in jeopardy. This is what this is all about, the older people who live there, nothing else.
I have a question. I guess what's confusing to me is why an individual private business wouldn't take care of the debt that they incurred. Why would it be the job of the county to pick up that debt with taxpayer money? Many of those taxpayers who can't even use the facility because they can't afford the private pay. To me, there's just no logic in that. I don't understand. We're a landlord, we're not a debt bailout service.
I think that's what we were saying. wasn't it?
Yeah, okay, that's just my question, if I have that right.
The only thing I said was, what's the license worth?
And maybe that could be negotiated if that was the sale price and that's what you were talking about purchasing. But I still think in the meantime, we need to have a viable operator lined up. The board can't perform those functions on a day-to-day basis. You're going to have someone with the administrative license to do the administrative work. I mean, you don't intend on doing it, correct?
I could, but I don't intend to, no. I got other things I got in mind.
So I think if the county were to be of good assistance, we could help them do that. I do think that's something that we have the means and the investment power to do. I mean, we can put our money where our mouth is and solicit. And this is kind of what I was saying last year. You know, we have the ability to search for operators.
Yeah, but you don't want to get involved like that. The whole idea of this is to get the county out. And once you start doing that, then you're getting into the situations you don't want to be in that you're taking over the administration of that nursing home. In fact, if not in word, by going out and soliciting bids and doing this and doing that, doing something else.
No, we are a landlord soliciting for a tenant. And if your board considers themselves willing and worthy to be that oversight committee, that's how other counties actually do it. Lincoln has never done it this way, what we're talking about, which is how all the other county-owned facilities do it. I contacted 2 dozen county-owned facilities last year. None of them are renting to a private corporation. We are. And the other option is, yes, a private corporation may be running it or operating it, but they are under the authority of a county-appointed board, which you've kind of self-formed. But I'm not opposed to that. I don't think any of us are opposed to that concept of having a board for oversight. But I'm still going back to the fact that this board is not going to actually be the administration. You're still going to have, it's just like the hospital board. We have appointed a hospital board, but they employ the administrator. That is the person that carries the credentials, carries out the day-to-day tasks. I mean, that's the difference. The administrator doesn't work for the county commissioners, he works for the hospital board. But the county commissioners help fund that and appoint the board. If that's the scenario that we're going for, that is what is done in other counties. Or they rent to a nonprofit directly, who then has a more open financial reporting system.
Well, my question is, what shall we do?
I still got a solution to it, Jim. You're gonna have to have people on that board gonna put up 450, 500,000 to get it started.
We just expanded our board to 10. Welcome aboard.
I didn't say I would do that.
Oh, well,
But it would be nice if you would pick some people from the western part of the county.
you don't think Kimberly Myers from the western part of the county?
I am not for sure about everybody on there.
Okay. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point is, what are we gonna do today?
Put up the money. Get it started.
You mean put up the money, you mean the county to put up the 450,000, is that what you're saying?
No.
Absolutely wrong.
Oh, okay. I
You
didn't think that, you
understand,
said put up the
Aljo.
money.
I said,
Well, you know, Howard, I've thought about that too, and every one of those board members are taxpayers, so they are really putting up some money too. If we use the county money, they're putting up some money too. I mean, they're taxpayers, so.
well, I'll back up just a little bit and ask Mr. Grace, when you're gonna put up the greenhouses, where was that money gonna come from? Weren't you gonna have some local investors?
Yeah.
Sure.
Fundraising, and maybe USDA rural development. I mean, there are funds out there.
Well, at this time, I move to notify Lincoln Park Manor of their violations of the terms of the lease that was contracted between their corporation and Lincoln County Board of Commissioners.
What is the violation?
There are 2 specific violations. The rent is in arrears. On the 10th of this month, it will be 4 months past due. And the second violation is they failed to commit to the terms of notifying the board of rental rate increases for residents. We were never given an official notice, and the lease states that we must be given 30 days prior to that increase. And it is my assumption, I have no physical evidence of this because I'm not privy to any personal finances of the residents, but it is my assumption, because it was disclosed by family members who pay bills there, that there has already been a rate increase.
Thought they came in and told us they were gonna have a rate increase.
I did. That's that right there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That was after it happened.
I don't remember what it was. I guess I would second the motion that we're behind on the rent. I don't have any of the dates on the other violation that you're talking about, so I don't think I could second that part of it.
Dawn, do we have internet?
I have internet, but there is no Wi-Fi access.
In what month did the rental room rates increase? At Lincoln Park Manor,
March 1st.
as of March 1st? Would you mind checking the February minutes? February 1st, it had to be 30 days notice.
This year.
2018. And during the discussion of this motion, I would just like to also add that the letters that we've received in correspondence are very disturbing. I think that Aljo Wallace and Terry Finch have made the point in the past, which I did not agree with at the time, but I do see the value in it currently in this situation. They've made the point that county ownership of the building gives control to the county, and the only control that we have is being a landlord and choosing a tenant. It was my hope that if we were to turn over the entire operation, even the building, to someone at that point, that they were making it a point to make it financially viable on their own. That was my hope. Given the current situation, I can commend these two for saying that they wanted to maintain that control for a situation just like this. Do we have an answer for, I believe, is Miss Olvers still here? Mrs. Olvers, is she still present?
She just walked out of,
She left.
yeah, she's just around the corner.
Do we, from Lincoln Park Manor, have an answer for?
That has to do with a resident who lives there, and I would not comment in public about that. We have rules and regulations that we have to follow, and it would be inappropriate to comment in public about that. But we're happy to visit with the family. Again, I visited with her once, but I'm happy to visit with her again.
My whole point of the letter was, somebody's lying someplace, okay? I wanted people to understand that one thing is being put out there, but something else is being told to the family. They don't match. And this has been going on for quite some time.
Years?
Years.
For clarification, hers was the waiting list question, correct?
That's correct. The other correspondence was about a filing of a suit and a complaint for a refund from a person who deceased after a payment that was already made.
If I could offer something while we're sitting here waiting, and first of all, I'll clarify that I have spent from last May until February working in my publishing company, providing some marketing and public relations services and advertising consultation, as I do with literally dozens of other businesses. I don't currently serve in that capacity. And I realize there's a motion on the table, and you guys need to address that. I think, obviously, we're at the point where it really needs to be clarified all the options that are available. so that everybody understands. And there's one option on the table that is essentially to
Bail out.
I was trying to come up with a term. A situation that is being reported to be in serious financial jeopardy. I'm curious what the other, and I should add, I don't personally support the proposal as it currently stands, primarily because I'm concerned about the challenges associated with the board, which I serve on the advisory board. I'm concerned about the challenges of the board operating the facility. That's very scary to me for these very good people from our community to have that responsibility. And I personally can't support that type of proposal unless there's continued consultation with Grace's team or whoever it would be. But I'm just really curious about, what the other, we talked about calling the state. We talked about the county commissioners purchasing the license essentially, right? I mean, that's what you're.
Not the county commissioners.
Or the LMI purchasing the license and coming back as another tenant. Are those all, is that the extent of the options that are available to us? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm really just asking. I don't know. I've never ran a nursing home. I don't know how to run a nursing home. I'm not in the business of.
I guess a lot of that depends on the current management, what their plans are.
May I stop this discussion for 1 second?
So you can finish your.
I withdraw my motion. I'm gonna withdraw it and we'll come back to it. Go ahead.
So what, I think it's really important that we say, okay, this is one option. The second option is LMI or whatever organization comes and applies to be a tenant, and you guys decide who you're offer a lease to. The other is call the state. What does that look like? I mean, explain that to me because I don't know.
Well, that would be, it would be basically he gonna have to decide that he wants out. If he wants out and there's no viable solution, the state will come in and take over for a period of time. Just like they did in Wilson and
Right.
15 or 25 others, whatever there is.
And the state is currently soliciting for owner-operators or operators of those. What if they don't get a buyer? What happens? They continue to operate that facility until they get a.
No.
Well,
For a period of time.
I've been in contact with them. They haven't given a deadline, so.
There will be. They won't operate it forever.
Well, I'm sure that may be, but
I guess,
the fact
John,
of the matter is every day nursing homes are bought and sold. So to say that that's not an option to sell, not the facility or yes the facility, either way, that is an option.
yes, John, I have kicked around another idea.
Okay.
Would it be possible, and we looked into it once and it didn't seem to be, the county hospital having a board that oversees not only the hospital but the nursing home as well. The last time that was brought to the hospital, that did not financially viable, they didn't think. I guess the one thing I do like about the way the hospital operates is that it is an independent board. It's appointed by the commissioners. We actually own the hospital facility. We do not pay the insurance or anything on it, but we own the facility. I don't know, is a board could we create the same thing for the nursing home as we did for the hospital? I'm not against your nonprofit. I'm still at the nonprofit. The point I guess I'm making here is there seems to be a little division here among who got on the team and who isn't on the team. I think it's an open, the way I understood it, the whole thing is open for anyone to be part of this nonprofit, right? And then they chose members out of that group to be on the board, and I have no problem with that. But I guess I think another option is that we could proceed as we did with the hospital. Now, I don't know the history of how that hospital was set up. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time.
I have a clarification question. Are you talking about using the hospital as an umbrella of sorts?
No.
Or are you just talking about setting up
Something
the,
similar.
I would say setting up similar, because we looked at using the hospital as an umbrella, and that just was not financially feasible
yeah, I've had
for
other counties tell me
for
they
the-
specifically separated that
that.
purposely.
It just doesn't work for some reason. You know, we had a long-term care in the hospital, and that was a drain to the hospital. It just was a drain. It was a good idea, and it worked for several years until the regulations and things changed, and then it became a real drain on the hospital. We had to get out of it. So, you know, I think that's, you know, I think that's one thing that we could look at, but that doesn't get us to tomorrow.
Well, it
And
still
tomorrow
deals with
is-
the licensing
is
issue.
important.
Regardless of setting up that board or allowing this board to play that role, it still all circulates back to an operator with an administrator, obtaining a facility license, it's called the license to operate. And I don't know, the home health care situation's apparently up in the air, that's the third license. So we're still talking about soliciting to find someone to play this role for your board or a county appointed board, whatever.
Can I speak to
Yeah.
Al Joe's comment? Yes, that is a viable option. The Grant County had done that for years, and I think you called Grant County. And they ended up selling the nursing home here recently. But it was a pretty new nursing home, I think about 7 years old. So they built it, and they were subsidizing it $1 million a year. But Grant County appointed a board to be responsible for the nursing home. Really the only decision the county commissioners made was how much money to allocate each year to the organization. And then that board hired the administrator, they oversaw the organization. Those employees were not county employees, they were employees of the nonprofit. So it didn't have, you know, it had a linkage through the money. And the statute says you can do that, it's right here. So let me just say, if I can, you know, when you called me, Alexis,
When
A
you
year
called
ago.
me and
Okay.
a year ago,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
A year ago, I got involved in this community, and maybe I shouldn't have, with what's going on here, because my intention was to help you do something good, and that was to either remodel your nursing home or perhaps build something new. So all of my efforts along the way have been geared towards that. I'm passionate about seeing better programs for the elderly in the rural communities. So in all of the discussions and things, yes, I took over the business from Krista, okay? I didn't pay much for it, and my intention was to eventually get to a nonprofit board here locally with the ability to take over and build the new facilities. And I worked with the city, and the city said, we'll give you this land, but we want you to pay the specials on it. So that was to the nonprofit. It wasn't to me, it was to the nonprofit. So as we go forward, I want you to know, I'm more than willing to continue to work with you to find a compromise. And maybe we haven't looked at all the options, and maybe we should. And I'm happy to do that. But what I don't want to do is, I don't want to jeopardize the health and safety of any resident out there. That's the thing we have to all keep in mind. And every time that we can't reach some kind of an agreement, there's suspicion, there's rumors, there's uncertainty, there's fear that develops, and it isn't good for anyone. So if there is a compromise that we need to find, that's fine. If there's some option about maybe selling it, I know that's been one of the things you'd like to see, but what it would be worth, sell it, maybe we should look at that. I don't have any problem with that. What I'm trying to do is to help this community get to a point where you have a nursing home for the long term. And we're putting off anything for the future, setting that aside. What we need to deal with is how do we get through this next year? So,
Let me reiterate our position here, and then I can go away if you want. We propose to receive $450,000 as a grant from somebody somewhere. 125 of that will pay, actually be more than that, will pay the accounts payable. And 125 will get it up to 60 days behind.
Do you have this written down? Because this is different from the proposition that we saw 2 weeks ago.
Yes, it is.
So, do you have these?
I will give you, as soon as you agree that you want to receive this, I'll give it to you. We need a working capital of $175,000 to keep us going, and $150,000 for Mr. Grace for his purchase price. He has agreed that if these things are forthcoming, he and his team will work with us for at least 90 days to develop a long-range plan to figure out where we're going to go and how we're going to make it work. And we'll be back and give you a presentation on that. But we see an immediate need of some kind of layout of money to get the vendors brought up to even partially up to date. Otherwise, the whole thing is out the window. If the vendors won't, they're down now to bringing, as I understand it, food and medicine and not much more. But some vendors are a year behind. IRS is behind, and those are not good things. If you don't bring those up to date, we're kind of wasting our time with all of this.
Well, I kind of have a repeat question, but why is Lincoln Park Manor's debt the county's responsibility?
I don't know whose responsibility it is, but I don't think your vendors are gonna bring you food much longer if somebody doesn't pay them. And it doesn't matter whether Lincoln Park Manor takes over, I can't get Cisco to come to this address unless I have money in hand.
Well, it sounds like it would be more feasible for the county to start paying the directors start paying the vendors directly at the current time to keep those processes going than to offer to back pay someone else's debt.
Doesn't bother me.
We only have so much money.
Yeah, that's
If we're gonna allocate it to help.
that's fine with me.
I mean, I'm throwing this out on the table, it's a suggestion, but I'm not convinced that this 450,000 is gonna go very far.
It won't
Because
go
we
very
still
far.
don't even have an accurate debt number. And not only is it paying a corporation's debt, but it doesn't help anything into the future.
I agree. And what we're trying to do is keep it going and give us 90 days with John Grace and everybody to figure out what these numbers are. He's offered an entire financial disclosure to it. And we need to sit down with auditors, CPAs, attorneys, and figure out what the hell we can do and what we can't. Right now, there's a lot of going on that we're unsure of. But I do know that if we don't do something probably today, you're gonna start losing staff at the nursing home.
So I'm gonna create a new motion. I move that the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners contact Kansas Department of Aging and Disability to report the dire strait situation, financial situation of our county-owned nursing home.
Mr. Chairman, that's Joe was referring to a process where the county commissioners could appoint their own board to a private nonprofit situation where then that board could oversee and report back to the county.
Have you been in contact with the state about your situation?
No.
I would like
No.
to ask that we at least have
I
a
don't
second
want- I
on the
wanna-
motion to promote the discussion. Can maybe at least have a second on the motion or determine, Mr. Chairman, that it's going to die?
I don't like the wording of the motion, so I'm not against contacting the state. I don't like the wording of the motion, so.
We had our survey, we had our inspection, and we had a few deficiencies, and Kristen corrected those. So we are not in any kind of jeopardy of the health and welfare of our residents, okay? Please.
I don't think, Joan, I think you're misunderstanding, or at least my position you're misunderstanding. I think we need to know where we're gonna go. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're broke,
Yeah,
if you're that far in debt and you can't pay the bills,
yeah, I'm not saying
It's
at
that.
some
called being.
point,
I'm not saying that,
The
okay?
term that the state uses is called financially insolvent. If and
well,
when,
but I don't think
Yeah,
he's there. That's
I'm
the
not there,
problem.
okay, please.
I
Let's
think
don't
he's
put
there.
that out.
so then
And
why
I
are we
think-
being propositioned with a life or death situation?
And I think that he's as
We
one,
aren't.
I think when he gets to
I
that,
think we are. We just
No.
had this entire.
I never said that,
but I
okay?
What
think,
you said is that you're ready to start laying off staff.
I didn't say that here.
You
I
told
didn't
that
say
to me. Did you tell that to me?
I'm saying that in any business.
John Grace, did you say that to me?
I said I will examine the staffing and look at things. If I need to adjust hours, I will do it. So that any business does that.
but I think that if I understood correctly, the way the others did, they notified the state themselves that they were insolvent.
Oh,
and
yeah,
not able to
yeah,
pay.
absolutely. And we're not anywhere near that, so. We
Because
shouldn't
he
be,
is-
we shouldn't even be saying anything like that.
Well, the reason
What
that-
we're saying
That might be
here,
detrimental to your portfolio otherwise, right?
yeah, well, what I'm saying here is the whole plan was to be able to move this business to a private nonprofit, okay? And what I negotiate with them will be up to what they negotiate in the process, okay? So we haven't negotiated anything yet with this private nonprofit. We've talked about a lot of things. So, that's yet to be worked
Well, I
out.
think before I can commit any kind of money, I'm gonna have to know where the money's going. Exactly where the money's going and how much is going where. And taking over the entire debt is probably not an option. I mean, if you're gonna pay out $450,000 for nothing but debt, you better come back here asking for $1 million or $1.5 million to
I
get
did
the thing
that
going.
already.
Yeah, I know you did, but it didn't go very far. I think there's gotta be a negotiation somehow in that debt.
I think if you were to present the offer to any potential buyer of the business or potential leasee to the county and say, we offer incentives such as a year's working capital up front, where we're gonna front the next year's budget line item to this company to invest and have a secure beginning. We're going to forego taxes for X amount of years, or absorb them continuously as long as you are our tenant. These types of things. Whether we continue a line item out of the general fund for subsidies or not, these are incentives for a new business owner to come in and see that they could potentially make this a viable opportunity. The feasibility study that was talked about here that was done last year, was that actually a third-party information provided to us, or was that internal?
It was through an independent company.
Because I think we're making it sound here two different ways. Either we have something to offer someone, or we're in dire straits. And I've been approached personally as if it's a dire straits situation. We just had some conversation here indicating that if we don't do something now, something terrible is going to happen. But now we're saying, oh, no, let's not even talk like that. So do we have time or do we not have time? Because if we have time, then we can solicit.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? What is it that you would like?
Me,
Yeah,
I would like honest, real, truthful answers.
no, I mean with this situation.
Honesty and truth, because what
No,
I
but-
see
but
here
with the
is,
nurse- what
I
the-
see that LPM is claiming $2 million in payroll, which leaves you a potential working capital of $800,000 to cover the rest of your expenses. And I also see that you would like a payment, an 150% return on your investment, plus someone else to pay your back debt. That's what I see.
No, what is it you want with the nursing home?
I
Do
want
you-
honest answers.
No, do you want to sell it? Is that what you'd like to do?
At this point right now, no. I think
Okay.
we need to
You-
control the situation that has
Okay.
gotten out of hand.
But you want to keep the nursing home, and you want to have a nonprofit run it, or what? I'm trying to understand what you really want.
I would like a feasibility study done, and the county commission can pay for it. I would also like to,
Feasibility on what?
on the financial solvency of the situation out there. The home health care income, we don't know anything about this, what has happened to it. Is it possible that this gross amount of debt that has been accumulated since the last purchase has been because the funneling of income to the home health has been sent elsewhere?
Okay.
You know, we don't have answers to any of this.
So, you said financial feasibility study.
Yes.
Okay, what else?
RFPs for new tenants and operators.
Okay. So that would be a sale, right?
If you're willing to sell to the party that's interested, that's for you and your
No, but
corporation.
I mean, you would want to sell the building too?
Not necessarily, we can solicit for
Okay.
tenants.
Okay.
I think the other two have made it clear that they don't wish to sell the building. I have been approached with two strong arguments in my district. One is, sell it, we don't wanna pay for it anymore, because it's been such a burden and a point of contention and et cetera. The other point is, we need to maintain some sort of control locally so that we know that it's going to stay here and we can rent to tenants as we see fit and hold them accountable to the lease that we have. So I have both points of view being asked of me to represent, and I'm going to go with the board if they're going to say that they wish to retain ownership of the building. What I don't see are any truthful numbers, because this proposition that was brought to us 2 weeks ago doesn't make any sense. Now we're hearing that all the numbers have changed. How can we make a decision based on falsities?
That's the feasibility study of a year ago, and both of these studies were presented to you guys a year ago.
What, we got the 175,000 you need for working capital.
Yep.
You had the 150,000, that's basically
Yep.
the purchase of the
Yep.
business. Then we got this other.
Yep.
How much money does it take to just start at a cash basis per month?
I couldn't tell you until we sat down and audited all of his figures.
I mean, I guess, I'll tell you, the 125,000 bothers me, of bringing that debt up.
For that only
For the
brings it up
past.
to.
Yeah, for
that
60
doesn't bring
days,
it all
yeah,
up to
yeah.
date.
I guess that bothers me,
Okay.
but I can live with maybe starting June 1st and paying cash, or May 1st or whatever, paying cash so the vendors keep coming and we can get the stuff. You know,
Excuse me,
I need to know what that number is.
According
Okay.
to the report that we received, their revenue for March was 201,315. Their expenses were 219,747, which leaves a deficit of 18,432, if those are accurate numbers. So they're
So,
needing a
what we
subsidy
would
of
like you to do
$20,000 a month.
Is give us till, let's say, the 1st of July to sit down and work through all of the stuff and come in with the best numbers that we can. We'll have to find some CPAs and attorneys to dig it all out.
Well, I'm concerned about that because I was advised that this is a 90-day situation.
Well, John said he'd work with us for 90 days. Once we get approval to take it over.
If everybody's concerned about the debt for now, could we just set that aside? And we let this new nonprofit transition?
I think that the debt is the big thing.
I guess I don't understand either how we're gonna audit and get all those figures. I thought there was a non-disclosure that didn't even allow to look at those figures.
Well, I think that would be up to just the person that did the non-disclosure discretion whether or not he wanted to change that.
You can have a third party added to your non-disclosure. It was brought to my attention after that meeting that there is such a thing as a three-way non-disclosure. I mean, since they were asking for an investor, you can have that third party be, basically we'd have an executive session like we've had in the past about financial information where we know then, based on what numbers we're making a decision, but it's not public record.
Okay, so I'm going back to the dire or non-dire. I understand this is something that's gonna need to happen at least within the next 6 months. But is this oh my God, we're gonna close the doors in 2 months, or 3 months, 90 days, if we can't get this worked out? Is it that dire?
that's when the call has to be made to the state that there's 90 days it's closing, and then the state will have to come in.
I would just like to read the disclosure on this financial statement. I've asked for a feasibility study, okay? And this is from, this was produced by Bland and Associates, excuse me, I don't know, it doesn't have an address or any official logo here, but basically it says, no assurance is provided on these financial statements. Management has elected to omit the statement of cash flows, as well as substantially all of the disclosures required by accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Both omissions are considered departures from the applicable reporting framework.
That's on every audit. That language. That's how.
If you choose to omit
No.
your statement of cash flows. That's not on our
Alexis,
audit.
That's on audits.
That's not on our audit.
Well, in healthcare, it's there.
I have a question. When Jim walked in, he said that this had to be done today because tomorrow people are gonna be laid off. And now we're talking about, we don't have food, we can't get food, we're gonna have to lay people off. But now we're talking, we can wait 90 days and we'll still be able to pay for the help that we have, and we can still pay for food. So which is it?
I'm not in charge of laying off. You have to talk to somebody that has charge.
I guess my question is where, like, how much conversation happens between John Grace, his administration, and this nonprofit board? If, like, it just seems like there's a real lack in communication here, and it's leading to a whole lot of confusion on different levels.
He comes to all of the board meetings.
Like, because I feel like you're giving us one story, Jim, and John's giving us a completely different story. He's not hurting as bad as what it seems like. He's not ready to shut the doors tomorrow or lay people off. But you're coming in making it sound like this is incredibly dire. You can't call Cisco. Like, there's such a confusion here right now.
May I ask, Aljo, how strongly do you feel about the idea of essentially a hospital board type organization being appointed by the commissioners? And because obviously that gets around the idea that this was a self-appointed organization and it would be essentially an independent third party, however you do own the building, but nonetheless likely it would be set up with representatives from throughout the county as a whole.
Well, John, I guess what you said at the end is one of the reasons that I suggest that. The other thing that I guess reality is to me that this county is going to be providing money for health care, not only at the hospital, but at the nursing home eventually. I think we've already been doing that quite a little, but I think reality is if we're going to have a nursing home of less than 40, that we're probably going to have to infuse some cash. I would hope it would break even, but I think realistically, as this world seems, the healthcare seems to be evolving, that it becomes more and more that taxpayers are going to have to pick up. And you see it at the national, with call Obamacare, whatever you call it. It becomes more and more that the tax, I don't want to go back to that poor farm day where the county owned the farm and we provided basically for those that couldn't afford any care at all. That's what we were doing, But I think that circle is beginning to come back around some, as I've looked out over the years. When that nursing home was built, Good Sam came in, ran it. A few years later, as I remember the story, a nonprofit or a profit-for-profit, Mr. I can't think what his name was, Worth, came in and outbid Good Sam, or said they'd give him a better deal. And you saw that through not only through history, but private business thrived there for a while. I mean, everybody was dumping all the government stuff over onto private business. Well, now we're beginning to see the reverse of that. It does concern me. But I guess my feeling is that I have thought for several years that this nursing home needed to be some way like the hospital or under the hospital. I've just begun to think, sense that myself, and I would be very interested in pursuing that myself.
Don't you think possibly a better use of our subsidy to the nursing home, if it's going to continue, would be directly to the residents? I mean, if you invite an operator in here and tell them that the county helps pay the residents' bills, so that if it's, let's just use round numbers and say it's $5,000 a month, and you have some private pay people that can only afford $4,000 a month, that $12,000 out of our line item could be helping for a resident to stay in our local nursing home and guarantee that the bills get paid for the services that they are utilizing there. Instead of subsidizing the company directly, we can actually be subsidizing our own residents. Local residents can have privilege and access to a subsidy where they don't need to pay 100% of the cost, especially because you can only afford to house so many Medicaid recipients. If you don't have nursing home insurance, and if you're not qualified for Medicaid, and you're in that threshold where you can't quite afford our prices, well, maybe we could be using our county subsidy instead of directly to the business for them to pay for nuts, bolts, screws, and what they see fit. We can be giving it to our own residents and encourage them to stay here. That may even help the census.
Thank you for
to stay
confirming what I just got through saying.
But I think the problem with that is you have to reach a certain point before you qualify for Medicaid. If you don't reach that point, you don't qualify for Medicaid.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We can make up the difference, and that way you're guaranteed to the new operator.
How do we make up the difference?
We're spending $120,000 a year.
Well, let's talk about Howard. Howard, he's out of cash, but he's got millions of dollars worth of land out here. We're gonna pay for his way because Medicaid's not gonna pick it up until he does something with that land or his house. Jim's
He's gotta go
house.
down
If
to
he doesn't,
$2,000.
Well, if that's what Al Joe just said, then
Yeah.
ask him.
I mean, if you don't qualify for,
Why do I have to answer
if
that
you don't
question? Ask
qualify
him
for
as well.
Medicaid, you must have some assets somewhere. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand that you're saying we can't pick and choose, even though we pick and choose on everything that we do around here. But there can be a mechanism by which we evaluate their need. That's not uncommon. It's basically it's a social program, which I have never been an advocate for. But in this situation, we're looking at how to best utilize the money that we're already spending.
And I assume you're talking about when the assets are gone.
I'm basically.
When the assets are gone, they qualify for Medicaid.
That's right. And they use that.
Yeah.
And or, if Medicaid is paying at a percentage which is less than what is needed to actually, I mean, I've never really seen a number from the nursing home on a per person, per resident basis to assess the cost. Cost per resident is X. We know what they pay, we know what the overall expenditures are, we don't know the cost per head. And so you can subsidize it like that. If they're local county residents, they get X amount to subsidize, there are multiple formulas. I'm not suggesting there's one easy way, but that's something that you can talk about to provide incentives for an operator that wants to be financially stable on their own.
If I may, I think it's probably important for each of you to say what you're willing to get behind. I mean, rather than just saying we're not willing to do this right now, we're probably at the point where it's important that everybody know what your position is individually and what compromises you might be willing to make.
I stated before, I'll take a local nonprofit over a corporate any day.
And are you willing to grant that entity cash for working capital? I guess that's the first question is, are you willing to take web funds and grant that nonprofit a portion of those for working capital?
For working capital, I would, yes.
My question is, when Jim came in at first, he told us, he said he was gonna buy the whole thing, the county would be completely out of it. And now Al Joe says that they are gonna be coming in every month to get some more money.
But he wanted $2.8 million.
But that was for the greenhouses.
No.
Yes.
The $2 million was for the greenhouses.
Yes.
It did, they were talking about two, I believe.
Yep, 2 greenhouses.
We weren't
Because
talking
we were
greenhouses
supposed to be
anyway.
gifting the building in that scenario.
Yeah.
They get the
You're
bill.
right, that is what was said.
Yeah.
But that proposal's been revised and a second and now actually a third proposal is on the table.
But the confusion is that the original proposal,
Not to negate it, I understand what everybody's confused about. I'm just concerned about what you guys are going to do.
well, I'm willing to even help Mr. Gray sell his business if that's what it comes down to. When we solicit for RFPs, that will be a personal transaction between his corporation and the potential purchaser. If they wish to come in and purchase his license, he can negotiate all he wants. We can actually facilitate the sale of his business, which we could have done for Ms. Robinson as well, and may have gotten a better price. But, you know, I'm willing to even do that, even though I don't agree with what has been brought before the table. I'm willing to help facilitate that sale. Because if a new operator wants to come in and purchase that license and there's a negotiation for which he is willing to put out a dollar amount that they can just come in and take over Lincoln Park Manor or transfer the license, however that works, I think the county has all the means in the world to produce that scenario. Either by being landlord or a package sale. It either works.
Isn't it possible that a properly conducted feasibility study by a third party could tell us whether or not there are potential buyers?
That is what a buyer will demand.
Right.
That a buyer will demand an actual feasibility study, which is why I suggested we get ahead of the game and pay for that. And I have been making some contacts. I don't have any numbers to bring you to today, but I do have people in contact that are supposed to get back to me with the details on how that process works. And it looks like we have more time than we thought.
It certainly
But I
seems like
think
that couldn't hurt anything.
I think the not-for-profit board needs to stay in the possibilities.
So you would
I'm
like
greatly
us to,
concerned about whether or not someone is gonna come in and want to buy out a 40-bed home, 36-bed home, whatever. I think it's gonna come with some involvement from the county, and if the county's gonna be involved in it, then I think we need to look more local.
We don't have local administration now, but neither one of these people live in our county.
I didn't say they did.
But you're saying that we need local. We haven't had local.
I
I
said
don't.
if the county is gonna be in a position where they're gonna have to pay someone to run it, is what I'm saying. Because I think that's the position you're gonna find yourself in. Someone's gonna want to profit.
You're saying the county hires an employee, we create a position within the county?
No.
You said the county hires.
I think anyone that comes in here that's gonna take over that 36-bed home is gonna want a subsidy.
Well, I think we addressed that earlier this morning by saying we have other funds available that we are distributing elsewhere that could be channeled to this need. It potentially is a higher priority than some of the other things we've been spending money on.
But the point I'm trying to make is, if we're gonna subsidize it, then we might as well be in control of it, like a hospital.
What do you consider control?
A board, just like the hospital board.
Well, I'm not
You know,
opposed to.
you're always not wanting to subsidize somebody's business, which is what you're gonna end up doing if you don't control it yourself, through a board and hire an administrator.
Well, I'm not opposed to a board hiring an administrator. But I still think the county needs to help facilitate that process. I don't think that this board has yet solicited for, the way I understood the proposal, you were planning on, the board, not you personally, but the board was planning on continuing to employ the current administration.
I think he said they would just offer to help them for 90 days, didn't he?
That's John Grace that made that offer.
The offer I heard was a $6,000 a month contract, so,
Those are negotiable. That's just a figure laying on the table. It depends on what we want to negotiate, and what we want him to do.
An administrator's gonna cost you $6,000 a month, I'm sure.
Wouldn't it kind of also depend on your feasibility study? Because if someone comes in and says, yeah, this is a great business, we need to get a
Yeah.
management program that can make it work.
Yeah, but I don't
Yeah, but
think
who
that's.
knows? You know, to me, that's like saying I'm not gonna sell my house because I might not get a good price.
Well, I think we're working on that process right now, but I'm just telling you, I think we need to plan on the opposite, because I can sure see it happen.
Like John was saying about putting different ideas on the table.
Have you guys thought about setting up like a negotiations meeting? Like maybe in the evening or some time, like where people could possibly.
Well, I think they have been negotiating. We're not in the purchase deal, so we're not gonna be the negotiator. We're not buying the business.
No, I understand that, but they're wanting.
Katie, this is still a privately held business.
Yeah.
And that negotiation would occur between this potential board. And then at that point, they would bring those details again for consideration. The commissioners don't have, they don't have a need to be a part of
The
that.
commissioners aren't negotiating the deal.
No, I think I was misunderstood there. Obviously, Jim's here talking to you guys about getting money, right? Like, getting money for bailout, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm talking about, is this kind of negotiation right here. That way
Well, I
you
think
guys
we've-
have the time to
I
lay
think we've-
everything on the table.
I think we've made it clear that operating capital is a possibility, debt is not.
Okay.
I don't see any feasible way that they can assume that debt and make it work.
Mr. Grace, do you know off the top of your head how many beds the Ulysses, facility had that you bid on?
It was 60 skilled beds and I believe 25 maybe assisted living.
And what is the primary problem that you can determine for us after having come in, kind of taken over, revamped a few things at Lincoln Park Manor? What is the primary obstacle for us filling our beds?
You have an old building, okay, that's one thing. It's a combination of things. We aren't able to, the employees don't have health insurance, so that causes us to have a difficulty in recruiting.
Wait,
yeah.
stop right there, because you
Yeah.
made 2 points.
Sure.
Okay, you said it's an old building and the employees don't have health insurance. So you're saying that residents are opting not to come to our nursing home because it's old and because the employees don't have health insurance?
There's several factors involved in running the nursing home that are challenges, okay? And those two are challenges.
I know those are
Yeah.
financial challenges
Yeah.
for you. I'm saying, why have we not been able to keep and recruit and or keep more of our local people? Because I just met someone last week that chose to go to Ellsworth or chose to go to Concordia or so.
I think the census has been declining over the years. And now, I think last year, we averaged about 32 people, okay? We need to be closer to 35 to really break even. So, a lot of nursing homes are hiring marketing people so that you're out and about visiting with hospitals, physicians, home health agencies, and all of that. So that could help. But there are a lot of struggling rural nursing homes. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And, you know, the county has had this building for 50 years. And proper planning over time would have resulted in maybe a new building or major remodeling. And you were looking at a major remodel a couple of years ago. So those are some of the factors. Those are some of the challenges that we face.
But I'm still not hearing why we're having trouble recruiting or retaining our own people. Mostly everyone in Lincoln County, and I'm fairly new to the county, we all know that the facility is there.
Mhm.
We have people saying that they've been on the waiting list and aren't getting in. We
Yeah.
have cash paying
one person
residents. We have cash paying residents who said that they've been rejected. We have other people in the area that are choosing to go to out of county facilities. I don't know if it's cost. You're saying it's because we have an old building and the
No,
employees.
I'm not saying that totally, I'm saying that's part of it, okay?
Well, that was
Yeah.
the only.
Maybe there, you have situations where the daughter lives in Salina, and she says, Mom, I'd just soon have you move to Salina. But there are lots of rural nursing homes that are struggling with census, okay?
2 years of controversy hasn't helped in the situation.
Yeah. So, I don't have the exact reason why maybe someone chose another facility. There could be 10 reasons.
So you have no input on how to increase.
Yeah,
the
we're
census?
trying all the time. We're trying to figure out, how to increase our census. We have a new person that moved into assisted living, I think. So we're upgrading the assisted living apartments. We spent money on doing that. Try to make it look better, more attractive.
Your newest building over there is 25 years old. And someday, you're gonna have to start replacing it, and you either need to put some money away now, or in 10 or 15 years, I'm gonna be back here, and this time I want $10 million.
You're optimistic.
What can I tell you?
You're not gonna be talking to me.
GP meeting, you think you're gonna get off of this board? No. You think they got crooked elections in Arkansas?
Yeah.
I have a question about today because I'm confused from last week about whether home health is still on the table as part of the sale or not.
I would assume that that's negotiable. The thing of it is, is it on the table or is it not on the table? Unless somebody signs some kind of a non-compete, they can start their own.
I just thought it was already gone, and that was my question, is if it's gone or if it's still available to be sold with the
I would
business.
say anything's on the table, be my guess.
What you told John, is it on the table or not?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And you said as part of that.
I said, I put it in writing to the.
So is the revenue being generated by home health?
I'm not gonna talk anymore about the revenue. I'd be glad to sit down and go over it with you, but you've never taken me up on the offer, so.
I
You wanna
had
go
a
over the books?
conversation with you this weekend.
Do you wanna go over the books?
Oh, I'd be glad to.
Okay, set up, give me a call.
Okay.
Okay.
The comment in the back, I think.
Last week or the week before, they said there were 6 vacancies there, and I understood, I heard one was now for assisted living. Does that mean there are still 5 vacancies at the nursing home? And are they either, what kind of vacancies are there? And the reason I ask is because I work with an organization that regularly called the nursing home to see if there were openings, and they consistently said there were no openings unless they were private pay openings. There were no Medicaid openings. And I just am confused on that issue.
So right now, there's 7 openings on the nursing facility side. Currently, we have 6 people on our assisted living, and we have 9 total apartments.
And is it only for private pay or is it also for Medicaid?
We're licensed for private pay and Medicare and Medicaid.
Are you accepting all of them?
At this time, we are. But every situation is unique. We don't have a building that locks down. If somebody comes in and needs services and they have behaviors of eloping, if they have cares that we cannot provide for, we can't take residents. There are times when an organization has to make decisions on, our percentage of Medicaid, Medicare, and private pay. 2 years ago, when I owned the business, we had to make that decision because Medicaid was paying nothing. So we couldn't keep taking residents that we were getting paid nothing for, which is why maybe that comment has been made. Because at the time, we could not take any more Medicaid residents because we were at our limit. But right now, that's not the case.
Come back in 90 days with a plan, or what would you
I'd
like?
come back before then.
1st of June, or
Yeah.
1st of July, 1st of July.
I would say, work on the plan, and then when you get a plan put together, come back. In the meantime, we're gonna work on this feasibility deal and try to get somebody in here to tell us what we need to do.
Okay. Can I have Mr. Bland's thing back? I can make you a copy of that. You had a copy.